I do believe that the digital marketplace with our acquisition of Plum River will play a really important part in terms of creating a different kind of digital showroom. So instead of trying to copy a trade show, it's really about really creating an online marketplace, and
Hmm.
that's the route that we're taking.
Well, hello, and welcome to the next of the EW Sessions interviews. I'm Paul Woodward, the guest editor of Exhibition World, and I'm really pleased to have with me Hervé Sedki, who is the president and CEO of Emerald Expositions in the US. Hervé, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Your fairs have
Thanks
been
for having
able
me.
to operate. You're very welcome. It's great to see you. Your fairs have been able to operate for a little while now in the US. Can you give us a sort of a flavor of what you're seeing, how well things are coming back, the areas that you feel are just really how business is going at the moment?
Sure. Business has been obviously very, very challenging over the course of the last 18 months with largely the inability to hold face-to-face events. We have had some exceptions to that with a few events that we staged in January and in March of this year, and then more recently we had a few events. But really, August presents itself as a really important month for us. We have 21 events that are planned for the month of August, all across the United States, all of course different sectors. And so we are optimistic in that there is definitely a recovery. We are seeing the ability to reopen. Different states have reopened at different times, but they are open. But of course, I'm cautiously optimistic because of the variant that has also been big news here in the US, and of course, one that we have to take seriously in terms of maintaining health and safety protocols and making sure that while it's really critical and important that we stage events, that we do it in the right way, in a safe way.
Yeah. And what sort of response are you getting from exhibitors to the fairs? Are they all sort of rushing back? Is it varying a lot from sector to sector? I mean, what sort of picture are you seeing in terms of the enthusiasm of both exhibitors and the visitors to come back to the shows now that they can?
The enthusiasm is absolutely there. I would say there are a few dependencies. I think it does depend on some sectors. It depends on some geographies, um, and it depends on timing. So, but we are definitely seeing a lot more enthusiasm today than we had in the past. It also depends, by the way, on the size of company. Small
Mm,
businesses, which are in large, the majority of our customers, 80+% of our customers are small businesses. The enthusiasm for small businesses is very, very high. And I would put enthusiasm for larger companies is mixed. Some is high, some is low. And there we have, a lot more work to do. But small businesses need our platform to be successful. And as we know in our industry, we're really essential to the reopening of the economy, to small businesses doing business. They use it as a platform to sell, to meet their own customers, to meet new customers. And it's a really, really important platform for them. And so I would say that enthusiasm is absolutely there.
yeah. For the bigger companies, is that primarily because they still have travel policies in place, or because they have some reservations about trade fairs themselves?
No, I think it's largely because of travel policies, and I think that CFOs have put in place because of the economic environments that the entire country is trading in, some cost savings measures for this year, and have dramatically cut T&E budgets, and we're definitely seeing that where some of them are opting not to participate. Others are, instead of sending X number of people, they're sending half of that number or even a third of that number. And so the impact is absolutely there for large companies.
Yeah, but your sense is that once business picks up, once the economy begins to move back into a more normal cycle, that they haven't lost their enthusiasm for the events. It's just they're saving money for obvious reasons at the moment, and simply cutting back on expenses. That's what you're sensing, is it?
That's exactly right. I won't get into any financial details given we have an earnings announcement tomorrow, but I will say that our forward-looking numbers are very strong. So in terms of confidence in our sector and our medium and trade shows, it's still strong in the future. Short term, we have some headwinds with large companies.
Yeah, yeah. You said you've got 21 events coming up in August. Is that are a number of those events sort of off cycle? Is this sort of just getting back into the market? Yeah.
No
so
question.
that obviously
Many
impacts on. Yeah, yeah. So is your sense that you've got those? Please go ahead.
Sorry, just on that point, August will probably be the busiest month. I believe the busiest month in Emerald history, but typically August is a slower month for us. So
yeah,
it is absolutely off cycle in terms of having postponed, rescheduled events that were primarily the beginning part in the first half of the year.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess a lot of those bigger companies as well are looking at saying we'll come back in force once you're back on cycle in the normal time of year. But yeah, right. I mean, I know
exactly
compared to Europe, people in the US do tend to work more in August, but even so, to have that sort of number of fairs going on in August is pretty unusual, I guess.
It is. It really is very unusual, but it's it is nice to get back. It's putting an immense amount of pressure on our organization, as I'm sure all of our colleagues in the industry are feeling the same pinch, in that we're putting a significantly higher number of shows in a condensed period of time. And so from a resource planning, staffing perspective, there are definitely some real challenges, not just for ourselves internally to Emerald. Of course, that's a main issue and factor that we're working through, but also with all of our downstream partners, whether they're general contractors, venues, labor workers. There's definitely going to be some choppy environments that we have to all operate in, but we're ready for it and doing our best to make sure that it's transparent to the customer.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point you brought up there about the downstream partners, as you called them, because my sense is those companies, many of those businesses have operated on really kind of wafer thin margins over the years. A lot of them lost a huge chunk of or they had to lose a huge chunk of their staff when no shows were taking place at all. And I'm hearing in some parts of the world that they're struggling actually simply to recruit back enough people to do the business. So is that the same in the US? And are there any solutions to help them, just to make sure that your shows can actually take place smoothly?
Yeah, I think one of the there are very few nice parts the last 18 months. And one of the few things that did happen as a result of this devastating pandemic is that the industry has come together very, very nicely. Whether the competitors working together, all of the large organizers have been meeting on a weekly basis to discuss various industry issues. Our partners, whether they're general contractors or venues, have been brought into the conversation. We formed a new alliance from an industry perspective called m.i.c.e, which is a lobbying group where we're all working together, all facets of the industry, to really make sure that our message is loud and clear with all of the people that are creating legislature in the US, whether it's at a local, regional, or national level. So there are a few good things, and that is definitely one of them. So in that spirit, we're working together to really find the right way to reopen. How do we share resources? One of our, what I would call a traditional, very big competitor, and ourselves, we're working on making sure that we adjust our move in and move out dates so that we can accommodate each other, so that both of us could have successful shows. So that is absolutely still the attitude that all of us are working with. And so while I don't want to understate the issue of staffing and resources, because it's absolutely there, we are working together to try and solve the issue. I don't think it'll be completely seamless. Candidly, I think that we will face some challenges, but we will make it as seamless as possible.
Yeah, but you're not expecting to have to be turning away any business as a result of not having enough people to deliver the shows that you're now able to do. No.
No, we're not expecting that. We did a program inside of Emerald where all of our employees are encouraged to attend events and to work the events, and so they are being trained, and so we're doing things differently. And I think there is innovation that is a result of the situation that we're in, and I think that this is actually quite good. I think it's innovation that we've been forced into that we will maintain over time, because there are a lot of really positive, there's a lot of benefits out of having every single employee participate in some way in the production of a large show, whether they're in accounting or data security or whatever role they normally would be more of a headquarters internally focused role. They're externally focused now, and I think that's a real positive. And I'm sure all of our competitors and others in the industry are doing the same.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been discussing at industry conferences for many years the innovations we need to do, and in some ways, one silver lining of a pretty tough year has been it's forced us into doing that. While we're sticking with the subject of innovation, you, like everybody else, have been looking at the sort of the digital business opportunities. I mean, I'm sure you were looking at them before all of this hit, but I'm sure also, I sense also just sort of reading some of your announcements and some of the things that you've done, that not being able to do shows over the last 12 months has actually accelerated some of those processes. I mean, my sense from what I've read is that you've taken a slightly different approach to some of the other organizers in how you look at this whole sort of digital business opportunity. So could you maybe talk us through that a little bit, and sort of what's the Emerald approach to the digital opportunity?
Sure. So to try and keep it simple, we really view our business as focused on two different types of customers. So the visiting customers and the exhibiting customers in our trade shows. We also have a content and publication business, so you could talk about the sponsors and advertisers and the readers. So if you really look at what these individuals are looking to get, the readers or the attendees are looking to be inspired, to find new things, to discover. And the exhibitors or the advertisers are looking for leads. So ultimately what we're creating, what I'm calling internally here, the Emerald, the discovery engine, what we are doing is just being maniacally focused on inspiring and creating leads, no matter what we do. And so what we're doing is on a 365 day a year basis, having the live events, either one or two or more a year in a particular sector, that is then also complemented by a number of virtual experiences. And those we've learned a ton from in the last year in terms of what to do, and quite honestly also what not to do. We've learned a lot. And so we're leveraging the learnings so that we have this platform to be able to be in touch with our customers and add value 365, but also are taking this opportunity to pivot our more traditional B2B publication business into a lead generating machine. And that we're at the very early stages of, but something that we're very focused on doing. And then very recently, at the very end of last year, beginning of this year, we thought what we also need is to close that loop. So not only it's about inspiring and getting leads, but it's also transacting. And how do we close the loop in order to offer our customers even more value and more solutions? And so we purchased Plum River and have now launched the Elastic Suite, which is a marketplace. It's a digital marketplace. And we are launching it, started with a couple of sectors, and we're going to scale that more broadly across our entire business. But that's very exciting. And it also allows us to capture an immense amount of data. And so when you really think about the value of data, and an effort that has been ongoing here at Emerald for over a year, which is to put all the data in one data warehouse, we're almost done. We will be 100% done by the end of this year, but even today, 85% of our data is all in one data hub. So we know what the exhibitors and the attendees are wanting and what they're doing. We know what the readers are reading, where they're not only who they are and some of that information, but also their behaviors. And now we are adding the entire purchasing and what they're actually buying. And so when you really look at the power of all of that data together, it allows us, and you can kind of think about our future where we're going to build more solutions on top of that data hub that again add value to our customers. So yes, we are taking, I think, a slightly different view on the business, and but we're very excited in terms of the early successes that we've had in terms of customer feedback, NPS, and growth. Our digital market is growing very nicely.
So do you anticipate that will be a sort of real serious and substantive part of your business in terms of generating revenues in the relatively near future? I mean, are we talking 6 months, 12 months, 2 years? I mean, by what stage do you think that when you're making your presentations to analysts, you'll be spending quite a lot of time talking about this digital data stuff and in terms of its financial returns? Because I guess it's a big investment at the moment.
It's a big investment, but also we are absolutely seeing some returns. We are now reporting the revenues separately, so you can see them, and you will see some more tomorrow. But the reality is that we see clearly it's going to build over time. It'll take us some time to get to where we want to be. We've got a vision of 2025, where we want the company to be in 2025. It will continue to become a much more important part of our story every single quarter. So hopefully, as you track our performance and what we're doing, you'll see evidence of that.
Yeah. You spoke a moment ago in terms of the way that you actually deliver that, sort of in the front end, the virtual experience, so to speak, that you've learned a lot of lessons over the last 12 months about things that went well, things that weren't so successful. Can you maybe give us a little bit more of a flavor of that, either the things that turned out really great or the things that you think really don't work that well? Because I guess everybody's been going down that route as well. It'd be interesting to hear your experience.
Sure. On the digital side, what has worked really well is, particularly at Emerald, where we have 35 plus publications with real subject matter expertise in-house, leveraging the content that the publishers and editors has been incredibly useful. So transforming that into whether they're webinars or podcasts or any kind of very specific content has been doing extremely well. It's been going well in terms of customer feedback, in terms of adding more people to our databases, which hopefully will convert into more attendees at our shows. That's what we expect. We don't know that yet, but we will be tracking that. And also revenues. We've delivered a good substantive amount of increased revenue from digital versus prior years. Having said that, what has not worked well are trying to copy a physical experience online. So things like a showroom have just not been very successful. Our attendees don't mind them. They go through it. I think they're generally okay with it. They don't spend a lot of time on it, which I think is a problem. But honestly, the online digital exhibitors have not gotten a return on their investments, and that NPS is low. So those are things that we have to create a completely different offering. And I do believe that the digital marketplace with our acquisition of Plum River will play a really important part in terms of creating a different kind of digital showroom. So instead of trying to copy a trade show, it's really about really creating an online marketplace, and that's the route that we're taking.
Yeah, well, it'll be very interesting to see how that goes. And one other area where you have taken a different approach to many of the other organizers has been in the area of insurance. I mean, most of the other organizers either were not insured or have not been able to claim, whereas you have announced in previous announcements to the market that you were able to make quite substantial claims last year, and that you are still insured now. So what's sort of unique about your approach to that? That means you've been able to do that where others haven't. Is it more feasible in the US, or what is it really about your approach? Because in a sense, it's kind of surprising not everybody was doing it if you've been able to.
Sure. I actually will say on this point that that I've been lucky because this was a decision that was made many years ago, actually even before the creation of Emerald, when the company was largely part of Nielsen,
Hmm.
was a decision around insurance that was taken that ended up being extremely beneficial. So this would not be in the bucket of highly strategic moves on our part, but certainly, yes, we have very, very strong and clear insurance that has paid out and will continue to pay out. Now, I will not make more comments around this because we're actually in the middle of litigation with the insurance companies
Okay.
for more recent claims.
Okay.
But we do have the insurance, and we're very optimistic in our ability to get coverage.
Okay. Cool. Because I know I was personally based in Asia during SARS back in
Yes.
2003, and a number of the organizers in Asia were covered at that time. They did make claims, but the cost of the insurance went up so high after that that they decided to self-insure afterwards, and possibly regretting it now. One particular feature of the US market is an awful lot of events are still owned and managed by associations. And in fact, they're a very important sort of revenue stream for associations. You've already made one or two acquisitions over the last year, I think, of businesses that were in associations, and others have commented on this. Do you think that's going to be a sort of an important business opportunity going forward as associations reassess their event portfolios?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, it's difficult for me to predict that. What I'll say, though, is that I believe that independents, whether they're association or smaller, privately held organizers, will have a harder time in the future because our business is changing so much, and the level of investment required to really stay up with the times and what our customers are expecting in terms of some of the solutions that we talked about, whether they're in digital data assets. I believe that independence, again, either association owned or other, will need some level of either partnership or being part of a broader company that has the investment capacity to be able to offer the types of solutions that customers are more and more looking for. So that then leads me to be reasonably optimistic that while it has been very difficult to buy association type shows, I do believe that that we'll see more rather than fewer in the future. But I don't obviously really know. We're trying to be as active as possible because from our growth perspective, particularly in some sectors, there are leading association shows that are very interesting to us.
Yeah, yeah. Talking a little bit about that sort of growth prospects and going forward, hopefully over the next 12 months, putting behind us some of the challenges that we've been dealing with for the last 12 to 18 months, what are you most interested and excited about in terms of areas of business opportunity, either industry sectors or other places in the US, other places in the world even, that you would be interested in working in?
Sure. I'll hit your last bit of the question first, which I get asked often, which is around our international expansion. We have a very small, while the largest US-based organizer, we have very small share of the US business. And so you really having this focus on the US is really important to us, at least in the short to midterm. Things may change over time. Now, that doesn't mean that if we were to find a very interesting asset for us in the US that also has other operations in other markets, that we wouldn't be interested. That is absolutely an area that we are pursuing. So we may have a little bit more of an international footprint than we do today, but that's not a big part of our growth strategy. Our growth strategy is really focused on launching new shows in different sectors. We do want to diversify from the sectors that we're in today. We have excellent sectors today. We have the leading shows in the sectors that we're in today, but we need to be in more sectors. And so we've created this new group called Emerald Accelerator that is all about launching. And we expect to be launching 6 to 8 shows per year. And of course, that will be a ramp up starting in 2022. So very excited about that new group. That new group is now fully staffed. We've been able to attract some phenomenal talent for that particular division that we just created, and we just actually reviewed the pipeline with our board earlier this week, and it's a really exciting pipeline. So that is one really key area. The second key area is around looking for businesses like one that we just purchased for the photography business. We purchased a small business called Sue Bryce Education. So it's really an education and e-learning platform within a particular sector. So what we are looking are for these types of businesses, whether they're e-learning or other businesses that add value to our customers in the sectors that we operate. And so that's another really core part of our growth strategy. And then, of course, something that's been very traditional in the industry, which is adjacent growth. So within the sectors that we're already operating, our portfolio leaders are working aggressively to find opportunities to grow the existing assets through adjacent opportunities. And so that's a very interesting growth opportunity for us as well.
Yeah. And within the US, are you looking at any particular geographical areas? I mean, or are these really spread across the whole country?
They're mostly, I would say, spread across the whole country, but in our industry, there are definitely some real hot spots. So with New York and Las Vegas and Chicago and Florida and Massachusetts, those are more concentrated hotspots. But clearly, all over the U.S. is part of what I expect to get in terms of opportunities.
Hervé, thank you so much for spending the time and talking us through your approach to the business and those growth opportunities. Let's hope we're all back to really sort of normal business and normal growth by the next time we speak, and let's also hope the next time we speak is in person. But for the time being, thank you so much for sparing the time and being with us today. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity, and very good to see you.